Amen. So let's let's turn to Joshua chapter 8. Joshua chapter 8. Joshua 8. I had let's turn to Joshua 5 like I was thinking of Sunday morning, John 5. I had these two different places marked there. It is Joshua 8. So this is really encouraging to me, this chapter. And just giving it a title, thinking about how God provides a new beginning. And we could go, really talk a lot about that in different areas of life. But with just a sub-thought of a mistake turned into a platform of victory. And so the devil would love for us to dwell on our mistakes and feel defeat and just walk away. But this chapter actually gives us insight that we need to learn and have even godly sorrow over our mistakes, but we don't need to let a mistake drive us away from serving God and moving forward in God. When we follow Him and recenter ourselves, God has the ability to take our mistake and build a platform with it to where we can launch out actually and have victory in our life, whatever we're dealing with, facing, etc. And that's what you find here with the Battle of Ai. We're still talking about that. And I come across just a few quotes today in regards to mistakes, and I thought they really gave some insight. I want to share those with you, and then we'll dive into verse 1. When we get, and there's a lot of this chapter too, it really just lays out the battle strategy and the execution of it. And so there'll be a point tonight where we're going to just be doing a lot of reading and give a little bit of insight. So, you'll realize that as we get into the chapter. But there was, come across a sermon that was preached in August the 12th, 1849. He was a famous British preacher, F.W. Robertson. And he says, life, like war, is a series of mistakes. And he is not the best Christian nor the best general who makes the fewest false steps. Poor mediocrity may secure that, but he is the best who wins the most splendid victories by the retrieval of mistakes. Forget mistakes, organize victories out of mistakes. And I really appreciated that. Retrieving the mistakes. Sometimes we have a mistake and we have a lot of emotions toward those and we want to run as far away as we can from them. But I love this quote, retrieving them and saying, God, make this something that can be used. And we know God can work all things out for good, right? We love that, Romans 8:28. Henry Ford defined a mistake this way: as an opportunity to begin again more intelligently. So I thought that was pretty insightful, that we've learned something. We don't need to repeat the same thing again, right? Learn from it. We can start again. And he goes, I think he went on to say, no, that was the end of the quote. So, and really, I think the worst thing that we could do is never try again. The Bible's full, even right here in Joshua and the children of Israel, is full of people that made mistakes, and in many situations where they tried again. They went forward again. The worst thing you can do is not try again. So we, as Henry Ford says, we need to begin again more intelligently. And that's exactly what Joshua did, right, in the children of Israel. So let's look at verse 1. Before we do that, what was the mistake? Let's revisit that for a second. What was the mistake? We learned that in the Battle of Ai, their first run at it, it was a disaster. Was it 36? Was that the right number? 36 men? Is that right? 36 soldiers died. Okay. So you all tell me what happened. What led to defeat? Yeah. So there was hidden sin by how many? One family. Pardon? Yeah, or the family, however many was in the family. But, Achan and his family. So I would say, one family. Sin was hidden. Did they have instructions not to have the things that they had? There was clear instructions. So it wasn't like God kept the instructions away and, well, I couldn't plead ignorance, right? So they had instructions not to take that. But then what happened after the fact? That really tells us how God views sin. What happened with Achan and his family and all, they were stoned. And you get the sense of the chapter that we looked at, in I think it was Deuteronomy, or I can't remember the passage now, that it does give you the tone that they all were in agree, they all worked together and they kept it in the tent, because one's not to pay for the sins of the other, and so that gives you that picture. So God hates sin, and sin always pays the same, right? It brings death, it brings destruction. So all that being said, in verse 26, there was a heap of stones as they covered up there at Achan and his family in the burial, which reminded them, hey, sin is not good to have in the camp. Okay? So we come now to chapter 8. Can anything good now happen? Is there any hope for them? So in verse 1 it says, "And the Lord said unto Joshua, Fear not, neither be dismayed. Take all the people of war with thee, and arise and go to Ai. See, I have given into thy hand the king of Ai and his people and his city and his land." So let's just pause for a second, because there's definitely some things here that we don't need to overlook in verse 1. So at what point now, what has happened? You've already said it, but you can repeat it. What has happened that now brings God to where he is giving further instructions? You've already said it a minute ago. What happened? Now God is speaking, giving further instructions. The sin's been dealt with. Yeah, the sin's been removed, and it's out of the camp, and now God speaks again. And when you think about that, of course, God was not going to give them further instructions. God was not going to give them any of the land of Ai until the sin was dealt with, and that's what you see here. Now God's speaking again. And so as we think about that, none of us should expect God to do anything further through us when we're giving sin a seat at the table, right? Whatever that may be. Don't expect God to work through us. He desires to, but, we have to decide what kind of vessel we're going to be. And God makes us a vessel unto honor, but sin brings dishonor into our lives. And so we've got to be reminded, and the children of Israel are reminded here, we need to be reminded that we're called to be separate, called to be different. We're not called to have some kind of mixed together life of what the culture accepts or what my flesh likes and a little bit of what God likes. That's not our life. That's not our calling. Psalm 37, verse 23 and 24 says this: "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand." Okay? So the mistake happened, the sin was dealt with. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. I think all of us want to live a life that we considered good or pleasing to the Lord, but we can't go of telling our feet where to go. We need to let God do that. And so you all know that passage. And it says that he delighteth in his way. And I would just say as Christians, we really need to have the disposition that I enjoy taking the steps that God wants me to take. Like it's pleasing to me to follow God. It's not something that is brings me down, like, oh man, I got to take that step. But the Bible's full of people like Jonah ran from God. I mean, there's just so different stories where they didn't really have joy in what God wanted them to do. I just don't want to do it. You ever been there? I don't want to do it, God. You know, in your head, my mind goes to Belize when you were saying, you're like, oh, well, I'll go. And then Andy called you and like, well, this is what I had in mind, God. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And we talked about this when we were unpacking that part, the initial part of going into AI. What was the sin that it's not Achan? What was the attitude? I'll tell you that way. What was the attitude that led them in to AI? Was it humility or was it overconfidence? It's overconfidence. Oh, we got this. They're a pushover. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you all are taking the words right out of my mouth. Um, exactly. Yeah, you don't pass victory. You know, well, we'll keep unpacking that. But yes, I agree. It's not just you don't dwell on past experience. Past experience gives you principles, and if they're a real principle, they're timeless. If they're not timeless, then they're not really a principle. But principles you take with you, but the strategy, or it may not all be the same. And so you don't just, well, I had a past victory. You don't base future victory just because I had a past one. That's the wrong foundation to base future victory on. It's not really a past victory. It's a person, not just a moment in your past. So, but you keep on looking here, and I love this. Fear not, neither be thou dismayed. Wasn't that music to their ears? Because what happened after they were defeated at Ai? Every bit of their courage melted. It's gone. Fear overwhelmed. Courage is now gone. And, they're all mourning. And, of course, Joshua's seeking God now. And God says, the very first thing that God says, fear not. Because if you don't get fear out of the way, you're not making one step forward. Fear will drive you away from the things of God or the direction of God every time. Well, I can't do that. You got the wrong person. I mean, you start having fear. And that's the very first thing God says to him, fear not, neither be thou dismayed. Okay? So in other words, we see that sin, what sin has done in Joshua's life, it planted fear, And dismayed means to be downhearted, depressed, down. Woe is me. We can't get out of this rut. I can't get out of this hole. You ever been there? Just down and out, and I mean, you can dig the deepest hole you want to, right? But God says, now, I'm going to give you a moment now where you don't have to fear. People have created a situation where fear grows. Now I'm going to give you a moment where fear can be removed. And God says, just the words of God, fear not, neither be dismayed. And this is a God that's faithful. He doesn't lie. He's all powerful. He's proven himself so many times to these people. Fear not, you know. It'd be one thing if just someone in the camp says, well, Joshua, just don't fear. No, this is the God of heaven telling Joshua, don't fear. So that he had no reason to doubt this. And so it's easy to get downhearted. Because think about this as well. When you're fearful and you're depressed or downhearted, does that just impact you, or does it spill over into everybody else's life? Yeah. There's times in my life where I don't handle, and this is just a moment of transparency here, I don't handle well with when I fail. I don't handle that well, Miss Arb. I get mad at myself, and then I can be a Debbie Downer. And my wife, and her very tactfulness and way of saying it, she goes, I'm not going to stand around just to pick up your lip all day long. You're going to have to pick it up. So and there's times too where when I get like that, I'm not making my marriage well. I'm short fused even with my kids. I mean, it doesn't help anybody. And so if you're a leader of your home, leadership within the church, you're running your small business, like you're to be an example of Christ and the life of Christ. And if you're filled with fear and depression, being dismayed, it's like a rock thrown in the pond. It's going to ripple and touch everybody. So God's like, the fear's got to be gone. You got to lead these people. So just keep that in your mind. In other words, I was thinking about, have you ever, who's been on a plane before? You ever hit turbulence? If you have, you remember, it can shake you up a little bit or a lot. But you have a good pilot, that turbulence is not going to bring you down. You're going to fly through it. And I was just thinking about this. Life sometimes, as you're flying, if you will, you're going to face turbulence. But if you let God fly the plane, there's no amount of turbulence that's going to reroute you other than the destination that's before you, that the pilot has put in the system. He's flying the plane. So you need God to help you face the turbulence. I was thinking about when Jesus and the disciples were facing the violent storm. Well, when they came and woke him up, what was the first thing he asked him? What's the first thing he said? What was the conversation between him and the men? Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid? I'm the captain of the ship, right? So we're reminded so many times throughout Scripture, God has every prerogative and the power to say, don't fear. If He gives us reason not to. Say that again. Okay. There you go. So every day of the year. Yeah, once a day. That's all you needed, right? That's pretty cool. I didn't know the number. 365 times either says directly or gives you the concept not to fear. So every day, 360. That's pretty neat. Thanks, Debbie. Appreciate that. Let's keep reading. He says, don't be dismayed. Take all the people of war with thee, and arise and go up to Ai. See, I have given into thy hand the king, his people, the city, and the land. So who gave the victory to the people? God did. What level of victory has He promised them? Total. Complete. And God can do that. Before, they were claiming full victory on a past experience or arrogance or their self-confidence. But now, all the confidence goes into God, not self. And that makes the world a difference. our confidence is in God. And so we find here God is giving them this, but He's going to give a strategy. So here, I'm going to give you full victory. It's already, consider it done, but you got to do it my way. And that's always the case. God says, I give you victory, but here's the route. Here's the route. No detours. Here's the route we got to take. And so the kind of victory He's going to give is total victory. And when you notice this, the king, the people, the city, and the land, and then when we keep on reading, you're going to find that He allows them to take treasures and take things that wasn't that way in Jericho. And so when I was looking at this, have you ever thought that if Achan had just have waited, he could have taken certain treasures. Just waited. But he got greedy. He took things that God says, you're not supposed to take any of this. If he just waited, he did take God's portion. And then other things too. The garment. Yeah. We think, well, I deserve that. That's mine, you know. Yeah. Yeah, that bill's coming. I can't do that. I think a better motto is I can't afford not to give. And you all know this. Giving goes even beyond the financial. It's every aspect, all the resources, even our own health. We cannot afford to give. Okay? Excuse me, yes. We can't afford not. That's, one little word makes a whole difference in a statement, doesn't it? I just countered everything you just said. Can't afford not to give. Thank you, Jen. Thank you. One word makes a huge difference. Huh? I did. Last thing I want to do is tempt any of you all to not be givers. Oh, mercy. I show my humanity again. That's good, though. Y'all with me. You're not asleep. So that was a test. That's what that was. That was a test. No, sir. No. I'll say this. If I ever start doing that, I pray everybody says, we're going to have a church meeting. We got to ask you a question. No, I know you are. No prosperity gospel here. All right? God provides. But He doesn't promise you over-exuberance of wealth and prosperity. Oh, that's good. Bad, but funny. So, a few things that I came across today, some quotes and I'll give you a verse as well. We'll move on to further on to verse 3. But Warren Wiersbe said, God always gives His best to those who leave the choice with Him. So how do you want us to do this, Lord? Because we trust You that You're going to do the best with this, and we'll receive the best if we let You lead and You give us the instructions. Leave it with Him. D.L. Moody said, God never made a promise that was too good to be true. Like, there's no way we can go to Ai. Look, we done been defeated. There's no way we can do this now. And God says, well, now the sin's gone. Don't fear, don't be dismayed. I've given it to you, but you got to follow it my way. Leave the choice with me, and I'll lead you forward into victory. And now they're actually equipped. One person said, if you go to battle unequipped, you go unprepared. They were not equipped well when they went to Ai the first time, but now they're going to be, and they'll be prepared. So notice that in verse 2, and thou shalt do to Ai and her king as thou didst unto Jericho. And her king, all the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shall ye take for a prey unto yourselves. If Achan had just waited. Right? Lay an ambush for the city behind it. Now we're going to get into the strategy of this. But notice in verse 2 he said, I'm going to give you victory, the kind of victory you had in Jericho. So what kind of victory do they have in Jericho? Total victory. So again, we're promising total victory. But here's the neat thing about this. God's going to do it a completely different way. It's not going to be the same way, the strategy as Jericho. Total different strategy. but it comes from the same source. That's the key. It comes from God. Okay? You ever had God change the strategy on you? Lead you? Well, this is how I did it before, Lord, but we need to just keep doing this the same way all the time. God says, no, I can give you the same victory, but I want you to follow this different strategy. God does that with people. God does that with churches. God does that with missionaries. God does that. And it's pretty cool when we trust Him when He does that. Okay? So He provides the same result, but a totally different strategy. So here's a pop quiz. Well, actually, maybe we should read. Let's read, and then I'm going to ask you the question. So verse 3 through verse 13. There's just a lot of reading here. But this is the strategy God's given him. There's going to be an ambush for the city. Look at verse 3. So Joshua rose, and all the people of war to go up against Ai, and Joshua chose out 30,000 mighty men of valor and sent them away by night. And he commanded them, saying, Behold, ye shall lie in wait against the city, even behind the city. Go not very far from the city, but be ye all ready. And I and all the people that are with me, this is Joshua talking, will approach unto the city, and it shall come to pass when they come out against us, as at the first, talking about the first battle, they'll come out against us, that we will flee before them. For they will come out after us till we have drawn them away from the city, for they will say, They flee before us as the first, therefore we will flee before them. Then ye shall rise up from the ambush, and seize upon the city, for the Lord your God will deliver it unto your hand. And it shall be, when ye have taken the city, that ye shall set the city on fire, according to the command of the Lord shall ye do. See, I have commanded you. Let's keep reading verse 9. Joshua therefore sent them forth, and they went to lie in ambush and abode there between Bethel and Ai on the west side of Ai. But Joshua lodged that night among the people. And Joshua rose up early in the morning and numbered the people, and went up, he and the elders of Israel, before the people of Ai. And all the people, even the people of war that were with him, went up and drew nigh and came before the city and pitched on the north side of Ai. So they camped there on the north side of Ai. Now there was a valley between them and Ai. So they were very visible to the city of Ai, Joshua and his men. And he took about 5,000 men and set them to lie in ambush between Bethel and Ai on the west side of the city. And when they had set the people, even all the host that was on the north of the city and their liers in wait on the west of the city, Joshua went that night in the midst of the valley. So what's happening? What's the strategy? God says, I'm giving you total victory, but here's how you got to do it. So this time, let's say this. What was the strategy at Jericho? I want us to see the contrast. It's so neat. What happened? What was the strategy at Jericho? Okay. So they took the people and they marched around the city for 6 days. On the seventh day, they marched 7 times. Then they shouted, they blew the horns, and then what? The walls came down. You had the Ark of the Covenant out in front. I mean, they were marching around, right? They were marching around. The priest in front, like there was an order of the people and how they were to do it. Okay? And the walls came down. What's the strategy for this one? Same promise, total victory. So God says, I want you to take us, and Joshua numbered them. This group, you're going over to the west side, I want you to lie like ambush. You wait in hiding. And Joshua said, I'm going to take men with me. We're going to go to the north side over here on this hill, and we're going to camp. We're going to let them see us. And they're going to come out because they're real confident right now. Real confident right now. So once they see us and we come out of our camp, they're going to come and they're going to chase us. And once they get far enough out of the city, there'll be a signal. We haven't read that yet. But there'll be a signal. And when it's the right time, When God gives the clear, those you who are in hiding, you're going to flood the city. In other words, you're going to go into the city. You're going to take what God says to take, and you're going to burn it down. And then what's going to happen? You've got Joshua and his group, and you've got those who have just burned the city down on each end of all the people of Ai, and then they'll be trapped. Is there anything similar at all to the strategy? No. Other than it comes from God. But it's totally different. And here's the neat thing as we look at this. God can bring the same kind of victory however He wants to do it. Right? You can change up a strategy and it just be a flop. Well, I shouldn't have done it that way. Because usually how we are, if we find the way that it works, we're creatures of habit sometimes. We're just going to do it the same way because it worked that way. Right? And yeah, and there's times that you can new strategies or new materials or new equipment comes out. Oh, this is efficient. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? Have you heard the saying, don't recreate the wheel? Have you ever said that before? Don't recreate the wheel again. But God says, I could allow you to do it the way you did before, but I'm not going to. Now, let me ask you a question. What benefit is that? Personally. What personal benefit is it for God to change the strategy drastically? It does. It does. Teaches them to be obedient. The victory comes from Him. Okay? Anything else? Stretches your faith. And for one, God doesn't want them to make the same mistake twice down the road too. Like they had confidence, and if God just let them do the same way again, they're little by little, more and more just not going to depend on God. And obedience, stretching the faith. And so God needs to do that. And God needs to do that in our lives even today. God says, no, we're not going to do it this way. We're going to do it another way. And every way that He gives you to do it, it's not going to be contrary to His person or His character or His word, okay? If it's contrary to His word, it's not coming from God. That's a way to test that. But it does. It helps us. There was a American business leader, Bruce Barton, says, when you're through changing, you're through. So God does bring a level of change throughout our lives so that we grow in our faith and grow in our obedience, or we're really going to be a stagnant person, someone not practicing faith like we should. But remember when the title of this, or the subtitle, is that a mistake turned into a platform of victory. So their defeat made the people of Ai really confident, right? And all Joshua and his people had to do now was just camp out at the front door. Hear all the people of Ai come out. The king says, we're just going to go out and meet them. They're going to run like they ran before. So God took a mistake. Joshua and his people, they were flooded with fear. People of Ai were just flooded with overconfidence. And God was able to take both of those things and bring victory, make a platform for the people of His people to have victory. And so God knows how to do that. Take a past mistake and bring you to victory and use it for His glory. And so that's pretty neat. I think it's remarkable how God did that. So we see the strategy there. Then we're going to get into the next verses in verse 14 on of this actually playing out. And we're not going to have time to get to that, but there's still more things we learn from this battle as we go on. But they up to this point, have they done everything God said to do? I mean, after the sin was dealt with, from there, they're in position. They're in position where God wants them to be. And you may ask yourself the question tonight, am I in position where God wants me to be? He's changed the strategy. He's changed the plan. Maybe He's changed my job. Maybe He's changed, whatever it may be in your life. But that's how He wants to work through you. Are you joyful in that plan? Or are you trying to run from it? Are you in position? Are you allowing God to work? But have you done that with fear? Or is there still fear in your heart? Maybe there needs to be a purging of fear out of your life. I don't know. But one thing that we learn, if man just makes plans and strategies of his own and don't surrender them to God, they're going to flop. Strategy's good. You got to have strategy. But strategy's got to be surrendered. I may have a plan, I may have a strategy, but if I don't surrender it, I won't see the flaws in it. You know? And I think it's even good as a family or even church. Like, you have plans or strategies and you share them, and there's any time, at times that I'll share with even our deacons or different committees and or even different people, start punching holes in it. That's if there's holes to be punched through, that's good. Like, you don't want holes in a ship, because what's going to happen? It's going to sink. So you want to see where the holes are. God helps you do that. And relationships with God's people, when you work together and communicate well, that helps you see where the holes are too. Right? You want to go forward well for the Lord. So, all right, anybody got anything to add tonight? Okay.